bellissimo. Che porto, eh?
That smell,
The smell of the port. It's some dead fish. It's not fresh fish. It's dead fish. No.
Today, we fish.
Ah, e allora?
No, poi tieni le scarpe.
Ma no, me le tolgo.
Va bene. Franco, tira sotto, Franco. Vabbè, va fatto già, vai.
For once, I'm confident of success with Dino and Franco and their trusty wooden gozzo, as they call these boats.
Ciao, Vito!
And for good luck, I have Asia Argento along, who in addition to directing and acting in films for like the last 30 years, has spent a hell of a lot of time doing this.
No, ridi da posta solo.
Ah, la vedo, non è così.
Se vuoi ti aiuto io di qua.
Ah, metto...
Devi lavorare all'impiedi se vuoi imparare.
Oh, ma io l'ho fatto, guaglio, l'ho fatto 1000 volte.
Ma sai quanti
Io
schiaffi
faccio le gambe, madonna mia.
Cristo, tu puccione.
Dai, hai visto come so fatte? Oh. Quasi un uomo.
I meloni sono quasi uomini.
You've never done this?
Lumen Group. Nichts für Zuschauer, nur für Mit.
People more. The president says that a typical household will see a $4,000 raise if the plan goes through. But some labor groups are afraid companies won't invest tax savings in middle-class wages, but instead pad the pockets of their shareholders. Jody Calamine, General Counsel for the Communication Workers of America, joins us now. Jody, thank you very much for joining us on this holiday weekend. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Now, your union did something very interesting last week, and I'd love you to just explain what it was in terms of trying to take this GOP promise of the tax bill leading to higher wages and try and make
wages for workers, increases in wages. And so when we heard the White House say that by cutting the corporate tax rate to 20%, that workers would get, on average, a $4,000 wage increase, we reacted in a logical fashion. We sent a letter to 8 of our key employers, and attached to that letter was a contract proposal. Under that contract proposal, it says if the corporate tax rate is reduced to 20%, every employee in our bargaining unit will receive a $4,000 wage increase. This is something entirely in the company's control. The White House is saying, and congressional leaders are saying, that if this tax rate were to take effect, this is what would happen. So we just want that promise in writing. We want it binding in a binding agreement.
I think it's just a very creative response to turning a usual kind of political promise into something that actually means something real for working people. Just tell us give us an example of the companies that you wrote to.
Well, they're household names, really. AT&T, Verizon, General Electric, American Airlines, ABC, NBC, Frontier, CenturyLink. Those are some of our key employers in the industries where we represent a lot of workers, telecommunications, airlines, broadcast, some manufacturing.
So I think I can predict the answer to this question, but did you get any response?
We have not yet. There's been no official response from any of these companies. We did see a New York Times article about our letter. It appears in that article that at least one or other companies are calling this a stunt. It is not a stunt. It is very serious. It is the White House that is promising all workers this $4,000 wage increase. All we're doing is asking for that promise to be put in writing and signed. It's not a stunt.
So let's just take the big criticism that could be leveled at this. I'd like your response on it, which is, okay, we may agree that what you're talking about there is completely consistent with the political promise that has been made, but when it comes to actually running a business, you can't just expect companies to make a sort of blanket pledge like that across the board and going into the future. What do you think about that point?
Well, that is, in fact, not consistent with what the White House is telling the American people. According to the White House, if this corporate tax rate is reduced to 20%, everybody's getting a $4,000 boost in their income. So we live in the real world. We negotiate wages. We know that you don't get anything without asking for it, without negotiating for it. That's what we're attempting to do right now. In fact, this is something that, frankly, every worker in the United States could be doing right now. You don't necessarily have to have a union. You could be a non-union worker. Tomorrow morning, you could go into your boss's office with an agreement waiting for his signature that says, if the corporate tax rate's reduced to 20%, you will raise my pay by $4,000. The White House says this is what will happen. We're frankly a little skeptical that that's how this will work. We've seen trickle down before. It doesn't exactly work that way at all. Most of this money will end up in shareholders and executives' pockets. But you know, we want them to put their money where their mouth is.
Well, I think it's a great way of focusing everyone's attention on that exact point. And on this show, we will always champion the working Americans, and this issue of stagnant wages is incredibly serious for millions of people, including our viewers. Jody, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So, what do we think? There we are. President Trump, early on, he sat down with union leaders. That's not the kind of thing you get from a typical Republican, but it was consistent with what he'd been saying about being different to the normal Republican candidate and actually representing working Americans who've been screwed by big business. So do you support this message?
I have a lot of thoughts on this. First of all, President Trump has a great relationship with the unions, so that's been incredible, because I don't think that's something people expected from him when he was a candidate. But when it comes to this proposition that they've made, I mean, first of all, let's look at some of the companies specifically. American Airlines, AT&T, as customers of both, I think they need to talk to a lot of their employees and examine their performance before giving them a pay raise, specifically in customer service. But even when it comes to the $4,000 wage increase, we didn't say, or President Trump and the Republican Party did not say this is going to be $4,000 exactly for everyone. So if I'm someone who may get more than a $4,000 pay raise once my company starts making a lot more money, when we have incentives to bring workers and factories and different people back to the United States, I'd really hate to be stuck in a contract that's going to give me a $4,000 raise when I could have an $8,000 raise. On top of that, we don't even have a final tax plan yet. I mean, right now we have to reconcile the differences. The Senate in individual brackets has 7. The House plan has 4. These are things that need to be talked about. And of course, the state and local income tax deductions is something that a lot of people are waiting to see what happens on. So this is not something that's super simple, and this is not something that I think we can even really discuss at that deep of a level yet on the corporate side, because we don't have the plan finalized in front of us.
Fair, you know, all fair points, but Jana, you know, like truthfully, I mean, they are doing something quite useful here, I think, which is exposing these sort of political promises that are made and have been made for year after year after year by politicians left and right. How does it end up for an actual worker? Isn't that quite useful, what they're doing?
Well, first and foremost, I got a special message for my clients, which is I'm calling you tomorrow about my $4,000 increase for every.
Yeah, but sorry, they're not talking about the reduction in the taxes. They're talking about the promise that the wages will be increased. No, they're talking about the actual pay, the salary, the wages will be increased as well as the taxes cut. That's the bit that they're focused on.
So we know that that's likely not going to happen in a way.
So why do they keep saying it? That's the point. Teslin, last word to you.
Well, the problem is also with now some of those people who actually work in those unions and some of the people down at the bottom, those mid-level jobs, will actually believe that some strongly worded pen letter, you know, is going to make, you know, the private sector now change their whole philosophy and pay scale. And that's the sad part, because now you have politicians who are making promises and also groups out there who are making it seem as if, oh, if we just send this letter, it's all going to happen. I get the idea of what they're doing to show that trickle-down economics does not work. But there are people who at the bottom who are working that will actually believe, that this could be a possibility. So I think there needs to be some voter education, like what she was saying. This cannot be dumbed down to just some one tweet, or just some one campaign promise. We're actually have to spend the time, get into the nuts and bolts of it.
Something big needs to change. Okay, go on.
So we keep in mind, though, President Trump did send out a tweet, but I haven't heard Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell make the same argument, and these are the ones that are directly crafting the legislation and see it get passed. So to make that argument as a whole for the Republican Party, I think would be dishonest.
Well, okay, that's what they're saying then. No, I believe it, right? I've made that argument. I think lower corporate taxes are good for working Americans. I've made that point regularly on this show. Coming up, in the wake of the deadly attack on an Egyptian mosque that left more than 300 dead, we take a look at the history of radical Islamist ideology and what can be done to stop it. Don't go away.
Lower back pain has met its match. Aleve Direct Therapy, the only remote-controlled TENS device that's drug-free, wire-free for deep penetrating lower back pain relief. Get Aleve Direct Therapy, now $10 off with a coupon at Walgreens.
What I want, you got, it might be hard to handle, but like a flame that burns a candle feeds the flame.
Top steak and twisted potatoes at Applebee's. Now that's eating good in the neighborhood.
Long live dedication. With class-exclusive Rambach storage and a legendary Hemi engine. Ram trucks make the holidays and families come together. Get a great deal on the trucks proven to last during the Ram Black Friday sales event.
Get 0% APR plus 1,000 bonus cash plus no monthly payments for 90 days on 2017 Ram 1500 models.
Paying less for my Medicare? I'm open to that.
Lower premiums? Extra benefits?
It's open enrollment.
Time to open the laptop.
And compare Medicare health plans.
Why? Because plans change. So can your health needs.
So be open-minded. Look at everything, like prescription drug plans.
Oh, and Medicare Advantage plans from private insurers.
Use the tools at Medicare.gov.
Or call 1-800-MEDICARE.
Open to something better. Start today.
You can run an errand, or you can take a joyride. Because the SiriusXM free listening event is on right now through November 27th. So you can listen free to 100 channels on your inactive satellite radio. That's right, 2 glorious weeks of commercial-free music, plus talk, sports, comedy, news, and more. SiriusXM is on free right now, so turn it on and up.
Finding the right cutting tool for the right job is tough, but finding one that cuts the tough stuff is impossible. Not anymore. Introducing Multi-Cut, the 3-in-1 tool that's a precision slicer, wire cutter, and utility knife all in one. The secret is the mechanical action of its offset pivot point power blade that creates superior torque and leverage for incredibly easy operation. Cut a steel cable in a snap, slice a garden hose just like that, and cut PVC pipe in nothing flat. Multi-Cut has a titanium-coated wire cutter for wire in a range of gauges and sizes. Slide the adjustable base, and now it's a utility knife. Extra blades store in the handle, and the blade locks to store safely. And right now, it's yours for just $29.99. Order now, and you can get a second Multi-Cut. Just pay a separate fee. We'll even ship it to you free. Get 2 Multi-Cut cutting tools, all for one low price. Call now.
To order Multi-Cut for $29.99 plus processing and handling, call 1-800-709-9540 or order online at buymulticut.com. Call or log on now.
The anticipation, the pursuit, the capture. Our filmmakers get you up close.
God, look at how fast she is.
All week long.
Incredible.
Big Cat Week starts Sunday, December 10th at 9. Only on Nat Geo Wild.
Fox News Channel on SiriusXM. Your favorite shows on Channel 114. Plus, every story, every 15 minutes. Fox News headlines 24/7 at Channel 115.
response to this and actually look at the real origins of this threat, the nature and origins. This is something that you've studied and written about actually long before you had responsibility for these matters in government. You wrote a book about this many years ago, Celsius 77. I just want you to explain to our viewers as simply as you can the real historical origin of this thing that we keep talking about, which is the Islamist ideology. They hear that phrase and they perhaps don't know exactly what it is and where it comes from. And in fact, some people might misinterpret that as meaning that we're just talking about Islam. What is this Islamist ideology? When did it start? Where did it come from?
Absolutely, Steve. You are 100% right that we need to be clear that we're fighting an ideology, not a religion. There are some people who say that this violence has absolutely nothing to do with Islam. That's a mistake. But there are other people who say that this violence is inherent in Islam. That is also a big error. Islamist ideology is to Islam as communism was to socialism, or as fascism was to nationalism. It takes a noble ideal. Socialism is a noble ideal of sharing, nationalism a noble ideal of patriotism, and Islam is a noble faith that sustains and inspires billions globally to acts of charity. But what Islamism does is that it turns that generosity into resentment. And Islamism says it's not enough simply that faith should be a private thing and that it should be a way of inspiring charity. Islamism says that it's a responsibility of Muslims to create an Islamic state with very, very strict Sharia law and to fight against those who are unbelievers in order to advance that goal. And the creation of an Islamic state, whether it's the caliphate that currently straddles Syria and Iraq, or something altogether more ambitious, is what drives Islamists. It's what drove Osama bin Laden, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, and the guys who are responsible for the atrocities that we see. And it's futile to think that they're driven by distaste for this or that president or this or that foreign policy. What they're driven by is a deep, dark hatred of the West, of liberalism, of Christianity and Judaism. And the way to defeat it is to be clear that the ideologues behind it, people like Said Qutb and Hassan al-Banna, who were the Egyptians who helped form and develop the Muslim Brotherhood, and people like Maulana Maududi, a Pakistani thinker who set up a Jamaati group, which is in essence the Muslim Brotherhood in South Asia. We need to study their writings and counter the organizations that operate in their name.
So the point that Michael was making there is that this goes back a long way. Not just a few years, not even a few decades, but about 100 years. I just want to get the panel's reactions to this, not specifically the Egypt attack. I'm afraid it's just the latest in a long line of shocking atrocities, which we know all too well. But the idea about defeating the ideology underlying this, how do we think about that? Do you think that we're taking it seriously enough?
I think that it's not just us situation. I think our Muslim brothers and sisters in these many communities that believe in their faith and it's not an ideology that's been manipulated in any way, they need to come to the table and also work with us as a coalition to educate those around the world and around our country, specifically around the world, because in January, there was about 23,000 square miles that ISIS occupied. Now there's about 9,000 square miles that ISIS has occupied. So if we can work together legitimately and have a conversation and educate people to let them know that there is a complete and total difference, then maybe we can get something done a little bit more than what we've seen is going on in the Middle East right now.
What do you make of that? I don't know. I mean, I agree, but I just wonder what that actually looks like. We keep saying that, but it feels like we're not really making any headway in defeating the underlying idea here.
Yeah, I don't call myself a foreign policy expert, but what I will say is even in the Christian faith, we talk about we battle against principalities and not flesh and blood. And that's pretty much what that's saying, an ideology, a true mindset that has been engraved within a certain sector of people. Morgan Freeman has a good series out that he's doing now about God and the different, ideologies. And he actually talked about groups. He focused on groups who were within, those regions that actually helped to convert people back over from the ideology to really
That's a
standing
really
faith.
interesting point.
And it is going to take to come from within. You know, the West can't go tell this is how you need to be, and this is how, that just further promotes the ideology that the West is trying to tell people how to control. And so it really does take from within those communities to transform their own.
People were killed by radical Islamic terrorists. On top of that, 15,000 people were taken hostage or kidnapped. Over 2/3 of them were taken hostage or kidnapped by radical Islamic terrorism. And this is not just against Christians anymore. They're attacking their own. When we look at the Egypt attacks specifically, they attack Sufi Muslims, which they view as an idolatrous form of Islam. And so I think it's very concerning. We need to all come together and make sure that we stand up against this, because too many lives are being taken, and this is a problem that's been going on, like you said, for way too long.
Yeah, I think that it's the specifics that I worry about, and there's so many different aspects to this. We haven't got time to go into them all now, but I appreciate what you all say. I think that it's something that we just need to really keep coming back to, because even though we've made great progress militarily,
and President Trump has been great when it comes to the military.
And that sounds good, saying stand up against it. But when you have a community of people that are willing to strap themselves up with bombs to die for what they believe in, I don't see any Americans willing to do that. We're talking about something on a much deeper level that just can't be controlled military-wise.
Yes, but at least it feels to me like we kind of have a sense of the gravity of what we're up against now, and that our government is taking it seriously. That's what it feels like to me.
Our government has been taking it, well, not under President Obama, I shouldn't say that, but sincerely, now we do see that. But at the same time, yes, as you said, in terms of the military coming involved in this, that's great. It reduces it, but we're not seeing folks of the Muslim faith really come to the table and say, look, let's join you in this fight. Let's go and educate.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much. Coming up, there's a heartbreaking story about how apes around the globe fall victim to illegal trafficking rings, and what we can do to help these beautiful creatures. That's coming up after the break.
It's time to get smart about home security. Introducing Floodlight Cam by Ring, a motion-activated security light with an HD camera.
Don't even think about it.
With Floodlight Cam, you can stop crime before it happens. Protecting your home has never been easier. Available at ring.com.
We create machines that make every experience more real, because the best feature of a PC gaming machine is the power to make you forget it's there. Shop our lowest prices ever at Dell.com.
Thanks for the ride along, Captain. I've never been in one of these before, even though Geico has been... Oh, here we go. Here we go.
You got cut off there. What were you saying? Oh, no. Maybe the Geico's been proudly serving the military for over 75 years? Is that what you wanted to say? I have to say, you seem a lot chattier on TV.
Geico, proudly serving the military for over 75 years.
You okay back there, buddy?
We're on a mission to show drip coffee drinking.
Story of every beautiful place, kind of. It's like, let's move everybody out, and then in come the hipsters and the postcards and the Airbnbs. And thank God nobody's living
like
here.
You. But anyway,
You're right.
Because people like you, you make it.
Wenn du in dieser Zeit Fotograf werden möchtest, dann
road shoulders at bus terminals.
It's a very good job. I was surprised. I saw them do the other place the other day. I was thinking, what they are doing is different from what they are doing there. But when I saw this job, it's a very impressive job.
It's all about to beautify Abuja. Let's say sometimes you will see crowds standing behind the